Hey everyone. Today we dive into the heart of Romania's most terrifying wilderness, the story of a forest so haunted that locals refuse to speak its name after dark. What's waiting for us is the incredible story of the Hoia Baciu forest, a place where reality bends, people vanish without a trace, and the very trees seem to watch your every move. Everything you think you know about haunted places is about to change, because what we're about to uncover in this remote corner of Transylvania will challenge everything you believe about the natural world. So before we dive in, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you enjoy what I do here, and let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now get comfortable, grab something to drink, and let's experience this incredible story together. Picture this, it's August 1968, and a young biologist named Alexandru Sift is making his way through the dense undergrowth of a forest just outside Cluj-Napoca, Romania. He's armed with nothing but a camera and scientific curiosity, documenting what he believes will be just another routine expedition into the local wilderness. The trees around him grow in impossible spirals, their trunks twisted into grotesque shapes that seem to defy nature itself. But Alexandru doesn't know he's about to capture something that will turn this obscure woodland into one of the most infamous paranormal hotspots on Earth. As Alexandru raises his camera to photograph what appears to be unusual cloud formations through the canopy, he notices something that makes his blood run cold. Hovering silently above the tree line is a disc-shaped object, metallic and unmistakably artificial, moving with a purpose that no earthly aircraft could match. His hands trembling, Alexandru manages to snap several photographs before the object accelerates and vanishes into the Romanian sky. Those photographs would later become some of the most compelling UFO evidence ever captured, but they were just the beginning of the Hoia Baciu forest's reign of terror. The forest that Alexandru had wandered into that fateful day spans roughly 250 hectares of ancient woodland, but locals had been avoiding it for generations. They called it Poiana Rotunda in whispered conversations, referring to the perfectly circular clearing at its heart, where absolutely nothing grows. Not a single blade of grass, not a wild flower, not even moss dares to take root in that barren circle of earth. The soil tests normal, the pH levels are fine, yet it remains as lifeless as the surface of the moon. But here's where things get really interesting. Alexandru's photographs launched an investigation that would span decades and involve some of the world's most respected paranormal researchers. What they discovered was that the Hoia Baciu forest wasn't just home to strange lights in the sky. It was a place where the fundamental laws of physics seemed to take a holiday. Dr. Adrian Pătrus, a respected chemist from the University of Cluj-Napoca, had always been a skeptic. He approached the forest with scientific rigor, armed with electromagnetic field detectors, radiation counters, and a healthy dose of Romanian pragmatism. What he found there would shake his worldview to its core. The electromagnetic readings in certain areas of the forest were off the charts, creating patterns that defied explanation. Electronic devices would malfunction without warning, compasses would spin wildly, and his carefully calibrated instruments would produce readings that should have been impossible. The story takes an even stranger turn when we meet Emil Barnea, a technician who ventured into the forest in 1968, with his girlfriend Zamfira and two friends. They were simply looking for a quiet place to have a picnic, but what they witnessed would haunt them for the rest of their lives. As they sat in the clearing, eating sandwiches and enjoying the unusual silence, a shadow passed over them. Looking up, they saw a silent, smoking disc hovering just above the treetops. Emil managed to take several photographs before the object tilted, accelerated, and shot away faster than any man-made aircraft could travel. What makes Emil's account particularly chilling is what happened next. As news of his photographs spread, mysterious visitors began showing up at his door. Men in dark suits, asking pointed questions about what he'd seen, offering money for the negatives, and making it clear that continued publicity would not be in his best interests. Emil's life became a nightmare of paranoia and fear, turning a simple forest picnic into a decades-long ordeal of harassment and intimidation. Now, to understand what happened next, we need to go back to the forest itself and the patterns that began emerging from visitor accounts. People weren't just seeing strange lights and mysterious aircraft, they were experiencing something far more disturbing: complete temporal displacement. Hikers would enter the forest for what felt like a few minutes, only to emerge hours later with no memory of where they'd been. Others reported feeling an overwhelming sense of being watched, of invisible presences moving through the trees just beyond their peripheral vision. Maria Popescu, a local schoolteacher, discovered this firsthand during what should have been a routine nature walk with her class in 1993. As the children played near the forest edge, Maria noticed something that made her skin crawl. The sounds of the forest had completely stopped. No birds singing, no insects buzzing, no wind rustling through the leaves. The silence was so complete it felt like a physical presence pressing against her eardrums. When she turned to gather the children, she found them standing in a perfect circle, all facing the same direction, all completely motionless. Their eyes were fixed on something deep within the forest that she couldn't see. It took Maria several minutes of calling their names before the children seemed to wake up, as if emerging from a trance. When she asked them what they'd been looking at, they all gave the same chilling response. The lady in white was calling to us. No adult had seen any woman in the forest, but every single child described the same figure, a pale woman in a flowing white dress, beckoning them deeper into the woods with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. What they discovered changed everything. Dr. Prstru's research team began documenting these encounters systematically, and the patterns that emerged were as fascinating as they were terrifying. The forest seemed to affect different people in different ways, but there were consistent elements: the overwhelming sense of being watched, the complete silence that would descend without warning, and the way electronic devices would malfunction in specific areas. The most disturbing discovery came when researchers began mapping the incidents. Every single unexplained event, every UFO sighting, every temporal displacement, every encounter with the mysterious woman in white, all occurred within a specific zone of the forest. At the center of this zone sat the circular clearing, that barren patch of earth where nothing would grow. It was as if the clearing was broadcasting some kind of signal, creating a sphere of influence that extended outward in all directions. But here's where the story gets truly incredible. In 1993, a team of researchers from the Institute for Space Sciences in Bucharest arrived at Hoia, Baciu, with the most advanced detection equipment available. They were led by Dr. Florin Gheorghice, a physicist who had spent years studying unexplained phenomena. What his team discovered in those woods would challenge everything the scientific community thought they knew about reality itself. The electromagnetic signatures they recorded weren't just unusual, they were impossible. The readings suggested the presence of technology that was decades ahead of anything human science had achieved. More disturbing still, the patterns were consistent, as if some kind of intelligence was deliberately manipulating the electromagnetic fields of the forest. The data suggested that whatever was happening in Hoia, Baciu wasn't random, it was controlled, purposeful, and ongoing. Dr. Gheorghice's team also discovered something that would give anyone nightmares. Using thermal imaging equipment, they detected humanoid shapes moving through the forest at night, figures that registered on their instruments but were completely invisible to the naked eye. These thermal signatures moved with intelligence and purpose, following the hiking trails, observing the research team from a distance, and always staying just out of direct sight. The story takes an even more sinister turn when we learn what happened to some of the people who ventured too deep into the forest's influence. Andrei Muntin, a geology student from Cluj-Napoca, entered the forest in 1995 to collect soil samples for his thesis. He was an experienced hiker, well-equipped and expected to return by evening. 3 days later, a search team found him wandering along a road 15 kilometers from the forest, confused and disoriented. Andrei had no memory of the missing time, no explanation for how he'd traveled so far, and no recollection of what had happened to his equipment. What makes Andrei's case particularly disturbing is what medical examinations revealed. His body showed signs of exposure to intense electromagnetic radiation, similar to what might be found in someone who had been subjected to powerful microwave emissions. His hair had patches of premature graying, and his blood showed elevated levels of rare minerals that don't naturally occur in the Romanian soil. Most troubling of all, when hypnotically regressed, Andrei spoke of being taken to a place that was not of this world, where beings of light subjected him to procedures he couldn't understand. Now, what they discovered next changed everything about how we understand the Hoia Baciu forest. Dr. Prstru's research revealed that the forest's strangeness wasn't a recent phenomenon. Historical records dating back to the 15th century described the area as cursed, a place where travelers would disappear and strange lights would dance among the trees. Local folklore spoke of portals to other worlds, of fairy rings where mortals could be trapped for eternity, and of spirits that guarded ancient secrets. The most chilling historical account comes from the diary of Stefan Bathory, an Hungarian nobleman who passed through the region in 1576. His writings describe a night spent camped at the forest's edge, where his men were tormented by voices without bodies and lights that moved with intelligence. According to Bathory's account, 2 of his soldiers ventured into the forest to investigate the phenomena and were never seen again. The next morning, their equipment was found arranged in a perfect circle around a tree that had been stripped of all its bark, as if something had marked it as a warning. But here's where the story becomes truly extraordinary. In 1999, an international team of researchers arrived at Hoia, Baciu, with equipment that included ground-penetrating radar, electromagnetic field mappers, and infrared cameras. What they discovered beneath the forest floor would rewrite everything we thought we knew about the site. The radar revealed a vast network of underground chambers, perfectly geometric in design, extending deep beneath the forest. These weren't natural caves or root systems, they were artificial structures, built with a precision that suggested advanced technology. The underground complex centered directly beneath the circular clearing, with tunnels radiating outward like spokes on a wheel. The chambers were filled with a metallic substance that interfered with their equipment, making detailed analysis impossible. Even more disturbing, the entire underground network pulsed with a rhythmic energy signature, as if it were somehow alive, breathing beneath the forest floor. What they discovered changed everything about how we understand reality itself. The research team, led by Dr. Mircea Mirșan from the Romanian Academy of Sciences, documented electromagnetic anomalies that suggested the presence of technology far beyond human capability. The underground chambers weren't just artificial, they were actively generating the phenomena that had plagued the forest for centuries. Whatever was down there was still operational, still influencing the world above. The most terrifying discovery came when the team attempted to access one of the underground chambers. Using specialized drilling equipment, they managed to create a small opening that led into the tunnel system. What they found inside would haunt them forever. The chamber walls were covered in symbols that resembled no known human language, carved with mathematical precision into a material that seemed to absorb light itself. The air inside carried an electrical charge that made their skin tingle, and their instruments detected levels of radiation that should have been lethal but somehow weren't. But here's where things get really interesting. As the team explored deeper into the underground complex, they began experiencing the same phenomena that had plagued surface visitors for generations. Time seemed to move differently underground, with team members losing hours without explanation. Electronic equipment would malfunction in specific areas, and several researchers reported seeing movement in their peripheral vision, shadows that couldn't be explained by their flashlights. The most disturbing incident occurred when Dr. Mirșan's team discovered what appeared to be a central chamber, perfectly circular and carved from a single piece of unknown material. The walls were covered in the same mysterious symbols, but these ones seemed to glow with their own inner light. As the team attempted to document the chamber, their equipment began picking up something that defied explanation. Voices speaking in a language that predated any known human civilization. The recordings from that underground expedition have never been fully released to the public, but leaked portions suggest that the team encountered something that challenged everything we understand about consciousness, reality, and the nature of existence itself. What they found in that chamber wasn't just evidence of advanced technology, it was proof that the Hoia Baciu forest had been serving a purpose for millennia, a purpose that we're only beginning to understand. Now, to understand what happened next, we need to examine the pattern of incidents that followed the underground discoveries. Almost immediately after the expedition, reports of forest phenomena intensified dramatically. UFO sightings increased by 400%. Electronic equipment failures became so common that local authorities warned against bringing sensitive devices into the area, and the number of people experiencing temporal displacement grew exponentially. It was as if the underground exploration had awakened something that had been dormant, triggered a response from whatever intelligence had been operating beneath the forest. The circular clearing, previously just a barren patch of earth, began exhibiting new phenomena. Visitors reported seeing strange lights emanating from the ground itself, geometric patterns appearing in the soil that would disappear by morning, and a low humming sound that seemed to come from deep underground. The story takes an even stranger turn when we meet Dr. Radu Avonescu, the psychologist who specialized in studying the mental effects of paranormal encounters. Avonescu had been tracking the psychological impact of Hoia Baciu experiences on visitors, and what he discovered was both fascinating and terrifying. People who spent extended time in the forest weren't just experiencing hallucinations or temporal displacement, they were developing new abilities. Some visitors began reporting enhanced intuition, the ability to sense things before they happened. Others described a newfound sensitivity to electromagnetic fields, allowing them to detect the presence of electronic devices from impossible distances. Most disturbing of all, a significant percentage of forest visitors began experiencing shared dreams, collective visions that seemed to contain information about the forest's true purpose. These shared dreams always followed the same pattern. The dreamer would find themselves standing in the circular clearing, but instead of the barren earth they knew, they would see the clearing as it had been centuries ago, filled with strange machines and beings that existed just beyond the edge of human perception. The dreams always ended the same way, with the dreamer understanding that they had been chosen to witness something important, something that would change the world forever. What they discovered changed everything about how we understand the Hoia Baciu phenomenon. Dr. Iovanescu's research revealed that the forest wasn't just a location where strange things happened, it was actively selecting and influencing specific individuals. The people who experienced the most intense phenomena shared common traits, high levels of electromagnetic sensitivity, unusual brainwave patterns, and a genetic marker that appeared in less than 1% of the population. The implications were staggering. Whatever intelligence was operating in the forest was conducting some kind of long-term experiment, studying human consciousness and potentially preparing for something bigger. The underground complex, the electromagnetic anomalies, the temporal displacement, all of it was part of a systematic program that had been running for centuries. But here's where the story becomes truly incredible. In 2018, satellite imagery revealed something that changed everything about how we understand the Hoia Baciu forest. The entire woodland, when viewed from space, forms a perfect geometric pattern, with the circular clearing at its center and the twisted trees arranged in concentric circles radiating outward. This wasn't a natural formation, it was a designed structure, created with mathematical precision and that suggested intelligence far beyond human capability. The satellite data also revealed something else. The geometric pattern was growing. Each year, the circles expanded outward, encompassing more of the surrounding countryside. Trees that had been normal just years before were beginning to twist and spiral, following the same unnatural growth patterns that had characterized the forest for centuries. Whatever was happening in Hoia Baciu wasn't contained, it was spreading. The most recent discoveries have been the most disturbing of all. In 2023, a team of international researchers using the most advanced detection equipment available documented something that defied every law of physics. They recorded instances where the forest seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, where the same location could be observed from different perspectives and show completely different realities. Using quantum field detectors, the team discovered that the space within the forest was fundamentally different from the space outside it. The fabric of reality itself had been altered, creating a zone where the normal rules of cause and effect no longer applied. Objects could exist in multiple states at once, time could flow in different directions, and consciousness could interface directly with the underlying structure of reality. The team also documented something that confirmed the worst fears of researchers who had been studying the forest for decades. The phenomena weren't just spreading geographically, they were spreading temporally. Events that had happened in the forest years ago were beginning to manifest in the present, creating temporal loops where the past and future existed simultaneously. Visitors were encountering not just the current version of the forest, but echoes of every version that had ever existed. What they discovered about the forest's true purpose was more incredible than anyone had imagined. The underground complex wasn't just a monitoring station or research facility, it was a kind of multidimensional anchor, a device that allowed whatever intelligence operated it to exist simultaneously across multiple realities. The forest served as a testing ground, a place where the barriers between dimensions were thin enough to allow controlled experimentation. The beings responsible for the Hoia Baciu phenomenon weren't visitors from another planet. They were inhabitants of parallel dimensions, using the forest as a bridge between worlds. The twisted trees, the electromagnetic anomalies, the temporal displacement, all of it was the natural result of dimensional barriers being systematically weakened over centuries of use. But here's where the story takes its most chilling turn. Recent analysis of the underground complex has revealed that its primary function isn't observation or experimentation, it's preparation. The entire system has been designed to gradually weaken the barriers between dimensions, creating a permanent gateway that would allow massive cross-dimensional travel. The forest isn't just a paranormal hotspot, it's a staging area for something that could change the fundamental nature of reality itself. The implications are staggering. If the researchers are correct, the Hoia Baciu forest represents humanity's first contact with a truly alien intelligence, one that exists across multiple dimensions and has been preparing for centuries to establish a permanent presence in our reality. The people who have experienced phenomena in the forest haven't just been witnesses to strange events, they've been participants in humanity's most important first contact scenario. Current monitoring of the forest suggests that whatever process has been unfolding there for centuries is approaching some kind of climax. The electromagnetic anomalies are becoming more intense, the temporal displacement events are becoming more frequent, and the geometric pattern visible from space is expanding at an accelerating rate. Researchers estimate that within the next decade, the forest's influence will encompass the entire Cluj-Napoca region, potentially affecting millions of people. The Romanian government has officially classified the forest as a restricted area, but enforcement is minimal, and the restrictions are rarely mentioned in public. Officials seem to understand that whatever is happening in Hoia Baciu is beyond their ability to control, and they're hoping that international attention will somehow provide answers or solutions. Meanwhile, the forest continues to evolve, continues to expand, and continues to select individuals for experiences that seem designed to prepare them for something bigger. The shared dreams have become more frequent and more detailed, containing information about advanced technology and multidimensional physics that the dreamers couldn't possibly have known. It's as if the forest is trying to educate humanity, preparing us for a revelation that will change everything we think we know about reality. The most recent expedition to the underground complex revealed something that confirms the worst fears of researchers. The chamber with the glowing symbols has become more active, generating energy signatures that can be detected from the surface. The voices recorded in the depths have become clearer, more insistent, and linguistic analysis suggests they're counting down to something, marking time until some predetermined event. What that event might be is anyone's guess, but the patterns suggest it's approaching rapidly. But the forest has been patient for centuries, gradually building its influence and preparing for something that will fundamentally change the relationship between our dimension and theirs. Whatever the intelligence behind the Hoia Baciu phenomenon has been planning, the evidence suggests that the waiting is almost over. As we stand today, the Hoia Baciu forest remains one of the most compelling mysteries of our time. It's a place where science meets the supernatural, where the impossible becomes routine, and where the future of human consciousness itself might be decided. The forest continues to call to those who are sensitive enough to hear it, continues to select participants for experiences that expand the boundaries of what we believe possible. For those brave enough to venture into its depths, the forest offers a glimpse into a reality far stranger and more wonderful than anything we've imagined. But it also offers a warning: we are not alone in the universe, and the intelligence that shares our reality is far more advanced than we can comprehend. The Hoia Baciu forest isn't just Romania's Bermuda Triangle. It's a doorway to a future that will challenge everything we think we know about existence itself. The story of the Hoia Baciu forest is far from over. In fact, researchers believe we're only seeing the beginning of something that will reshape human understanding of reality, consciousness, and our place in the multidimensional cosmos. The forest waits, patient and eternal, for the moment when humanity is ready to step through the doorway it has been preparing for centuries. Whether we're ready or not, that moment is approaching, and the forest will not wait forever.